Well, hello, everybody. I know football season's coming to the end. The playoffs are here. Superbowl parties will be happening soon. And I like to make these little trays that are for hors d'oeuvres or snacks or nuts or whatever you want to put in them to give it to your guests at your Super Bowl parties or your playoff watch parties. They're real cheap to make, take very limited amount of time. You can knock out a bunch of them in an afternoon. And they're so cheap you can give them to your guests and let them take them home with them as a memento to remember the night and the evening and party by. I made them from a template, which is real easy, and I'll go over that at the end of the video. Let me know what you think. Please like and subscribe if you want to. If you don't want to, I completely understand. And here we go.
Okay, first you start by slapping your double-sided tape onto your template, of course. I suggest if you were making, a lot of these for a party to give away or whatever, to make 2 or 3 templates, and then you can just set it up as an assembly line, and you could really knock out 10 or 15 or 20 of them in a pretty short time. Also, this double-sided tape I got on sale at Harbor Freight a couple weeks ago, and it sticks really well, but it is hard to get off. So if anybody knows a good solvent to get it off of the wood, please let me know. Next, just use the Forstner bit to hog out as much of the middle as you can. I got this Forstner bit the night before, and it is a 1 5/8 inch Forstner bit. And I do have to admit, after using it, I read the instructions and realized that I was using it way too fast. So hopefully we didn't affect the sharpness of it. I'm still learning, and I learned a lesson there. For any other beginners out there like me, I just want to point out that the goal of using the Forstner bit here is just to remove as much material from the center of the tray as possible. That way it just makes it a whole lot easier when you're routing the template, and it takes a lot less time. You can just hog out that material with the Forstner bit, and it saves a little bit of wear and tear on your router bit. Once you're done hogging it out, just use a chisel and clean out the middle bits as much as you can. Which reminds me, I really need to get a good chisel sharpening system. I'm not sure exactly what I was doing waving the chisel around in there, but clean it out as well as you can. In full disclosure, it took me forever to figure out how I was going to mount this and hold it down so that I could route it, and I decided not to include that footage because watching it back, it is rather embarrassing. It is quite comical, but I decided I did not feel like putting myself down that much today. But just figure a way to secure it to your workbench so that you can safely route it. One of the most crucial steps when using a template is getting your depth correctly set on your router. I'm using a bowl bit here and trying to figure out how deep and how thick you want the bottom of your tray to be, as well as making sure that the bearings hit that template on the router bit are crucial. So just take a little bit of time with that. I didn't go too much in depth because I don't know, how much experience the viewers of this have. But if you want me to do a video on it in the future, let me know. Also know some people use straight bits also first with templates, and I haven't tried that yet, but I might do that in the future. Let me know in the comments what you think is easiest. I also want to point out, and I am by no means endorsed by them, and I wish I was, but I purchased a Miles Craft base plate aftermarket with like 8 bushings the night before, and it made this so much easier. I made the first tray off camera to get everything down pat, and then I went and bought the Miles Craft base plate, and it made things so much easier, just giving it that little bit more surface area. I haven't used the bushings that came with it. It came with 8 different sizes, and I'm looking forward to that because that's going to really help a lot as far as doing, templates in the future or other things. Next, you're going to want to cut out on the bandsaw around the template and get as close as you can because, of course, the flush trim router bit's coming next. And I do have to say, I got this Wind bandsaw less than a year ago, and I love it to death, but I tried to change the blade, and I'm not sure if I'm getting the blade tension right because it makes some ungodly noises sometimes. And so I monkey around with a little bit here. I just thought about cutting this out, but I also want to hear everybody's opinions about how do you know if your band tension is correct. I've heard the 1/4 inch, deflection, or if it plays a certain note, but if you've never owned one before and you don't know how to do it, it can be a little confusing. So I messed with the bearings because I thought the bearings might be what was making, which they were rubbing too much, and so I messed with those bottom bearings some, but I'm still not quite sure about that blade tension, so please let me know any tips or tricks that you might have. But like I said, just make sure you're getting as close as you can to your template without, biting into it, of course. And there's something I love about a bandsaw. I don't know what it is. A lot of people are real big on table saws, but I just love the versatility of the bandsaw. It's probably my most enjoyable tool there is that I have so far to use. Next, I use a flush trim bit to get the excess off right up to the template. And I do have to admit that I ran into problems on this one with cutting against the grain. And I think the solution to that is to use a bit that's got bearings on the top and bottom and then flip your tray so that you don't go against the grain. If there are any other solutions, please let me know, but that's the one that I've read about, and I'm, of course, no expert on router tables or routers or really anything woodworking because I'm just trying to learn. And then I used a round over bit to round over the top and bottom edges just to make it, a little more polished and to make it shaped a little more like a football. I think there you can see that big cutout that I had from the other bit, and I was thankfully able to sand most of that out. And before we finish it, just a little bit of hand sanding. Again, you're welcome to do as much or as little of this as you want to, depending on how much you care about your guests and how much you care about their football shaped tray that they're getting. It's completely up to you. For finishing, you're going to want to make sure you use a food safe finish if you're using this for snacks. I use some just leftover board butter that I had from a cutting board. Use whatever you want to. Again, this is completely up to you, depending on how much you care about your guests, how much you care about the looks of it, and you just want to stay safe with what you give them. And that's pretty much it. Don't spend too much time on it. If you're making a bunch of them, just make it presentable.
All right, as far as making the template goes, like I said, it was done on a live stream, and I'll try to edit some of that video footage in if I can. But I just printed out a football shape like this in several different sizes, and printed one at like 50%, one at 60%. Printed a few of them at different sizes for the inside and outer lip, and found which ones I liked the best. I think it was a full page at 100%, and I used 50 and 60 or 60 and 70% is what I used to make these templates. Then just used some 1/4-inch plywood, cut it out on the bandsaw, and away we went.